Good evening, everybody who's watching out there. First of all, apologies for the late start. We ran into some technical issues. You know, it is when you're using these online platforms, and then you've got. Anyway, it is what it is. So, sincere apologies. Welcome to another edition of Biz Talk, the Black Economic Empowerment and Business Development Talk Show. My name is Ade Shakoya, and as you know, every week we bring on people who are working within the community and whatever you define as community, small, large, or whatever you want to call it, who are doing stuff to further, to improve the situation of Black British people living in the UK as a main thing. Ade Shakoya from Circulate, and once again, Circulate believes that a community is only as strong as it can have economic independence. And the whole concept behind Circulate is how do we improve the amount of times and the number of times that money circulates around the Black community, hence the name Circulate. Makes sense. So today I am blessed to have somebody who I call a sister from another mother. We've done quite a few things globally together. She's a mover and shaker at so many high levels. When I say high levels, I mean like high levels, yeah, right? But first of all, I'm going to let her introduce herself. So first of all, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today, Michaelene. So please go ahead and introduce yourselves to those who are listening and watching right now.
Okay, hi everyone. First, I'd like to apologize to the whole audience that is looking here. I'd like to apologize profusely for the technical difficulty which was on my part. So welcome on board. And we just want to say, my name is Michaelene Holder-March, and I am the founder and chair of BAME Health Collaborative. I'm also the CEO of my own companies, which is MHM Brand. They are a health consultancy, business solutions, and leadership lab, virtual assistant, and I have an office in Ghana, which I'm really proud of.
Awesome, great stuff. Yes, you have an office based out in Ghana. So a bit further, a moment, you'll be able to tell us a little bit more about what you're doing out in Ghana. But first, so my first question is, so you are the founder of the Black and Ethnic Minority, or was it
Black Asian Minority Ethnic Health Collaborative. That's okay.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for jumping in and helping out with that. What is that, and what is the problem it is set up to solve?
Okay, so BAME Health Collaborative was founded because of the concerns that I've had in regards to communities, ethnic communities accessing health, poor healthcare outcomes, the impact on mental health. As you know, a large proportion of the ethnic minorities are currently who are in jail and having mental health issues, or always sectioned, and more than likely to be sectioned, or in the context of elderly care, the outcome, palliative care, the whole journey. And I was a little bit concerned, and COVID compounded that. And it was decided, after careful consideration, invited on learned colleagues and people from all walks of profession to join us. Because I do believe this is a together approach. Cannot be done by just really being a complainant. We have to be a participant in our care, an active participant.
Awesome. So just so for some of the listeners out there, I mean, so we're talking about health here. We're talking about healthcare, which I guess is like NHS, could be private. What is your background in that area?
Okay, so I am a proud NHS person. I've been a nurse, I've been a midwife, I've been a director, I've been involved in the CQC, I've been in all different departments, local government, I've worked in all different aspects of that. And so therefore, my wealth of experience I brought to the table in identifying pathways. I've worked in mental health as well as an associate director in mental health. So I certainly it's not even about me. It's about as an individual within this community, despite the accolades and the beautiful titles that you may have. It's about what you can do to change the narrative. And I think that's where I'm coming from. So I don't really want people to think that you need to be a healthcare professional and you need to be anything other than who you are and what we can do to change the narrative. Look around your own family structure and see what they are what they're suffering from, and what you can do differently. Do you think they're getting the best care that they should receive? Who do you complain to? Is it getting to the right person? How long have you been waiting to be seen? When you say you have an ongoing pain, is that addressed? Do it's about the fundamental questions that you're going to do. And BHC is about self-management, that community promotion. So you know exactly what you need to do to change the outcome for yourself and your families and your loved ones.
Awesome. I mean, I love the use of the word outcome because outcomes are fundamental and key to what we do here. But on your website, I noticed that it says there's a reference to disproportionate statistical data showing that health outcomes for the BAME, for the Black, Asian, minority ethnic communities, is significantly poor in comparison to the rest of the UK population. Do you want to expand on that a bit more? I know you touched on it a moment ago when you started talking about mental health and other bits and pieces, but could you expand on that a bit more? What is that?
Yeah, what I would say that there is a lot of research that has been done, and I don't want to refute and say, well, it's not quality or it wasn't, but I do think it's still early in the day for us to really get the statistical evidence to support some of the suggestions. So some of the suggestions is a poor background, real social issues. But we know for a fact that some of the people who have died are healthcare professionals, are consultants, and they were in an okay economic bracket. So I think it's still sitting in that gray box. However, we do know that comorbidities, people who are diabetic, we are more likely to be diabetic, hypertension. We do know that your recovery is a bit slow in regards to that.
You're fading in and out. We can't hear you. You're fading in and out.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so we do know that comorbidities, having an underlying illness, will actually slow your recovery. We do know that. We also know our family structure compared to our Caucasian brothers and sisters. Our family structure, extended family, have an impact on COVID and regards to transmission. We know that. We know that more than one live in the household. Some might be vulnerable. We know that. Economics is another factor that we cannot ignore, that most people will do the front line and they do more work, they do more agency work in order to increase their income. So despite COVID or not, they are going out to work, and they're going out to work in high risk areas. For me, more importantly, it is about the COVID information. Because in a very early period, a lot of people didn't understand what COVID is and the impact of COVID. So it was, COVID is happening, but it can't happen to me. Yeah. And it's about understanding your bubble. What is your bubble?
Okay, so let me ask you a question there. So here's the one I'm going to have to come in about that bubble thing, because this bubble thing, I don't understand it. Like, I talk to some people, they say like, yeah, you can be in my bubble. And then I talk to somebody else, say, I can be in their bubble. Then I ask people, how many people is allowed in the bubble? I hear 1, I hear 50. I'm confused about this bubble. It's like I'm bubbling all over the place. So somebody's having a bubble. I'm confused. What's a bubble?
The basic concept of a bubble is the people that you interact with 24 hours a day. So like you and your sons, they are in your bubble. Yeah, they are in your bubble. Now, the fact is that they would also be in a bubble in their school. So they will have their own bubble in that school environment. Yeah. But when you are going to have Michaelene visiting you for a few hours, I am not in your bubble. You don't know who I've come in contact with. You don't know if I'm asymptomatic. You don't know if I have symptoms that I have not declared to you. You don't know if someone I have been in contact with is positive COVID. have
That sounds
had a
like my
positive COVID test. You
That sounds like
don't
my
know
Tea
if I've
Party.
had a false negative that will end up being a positive. So the fundamental here is self-preservation is the key. Self-preservation is the key. Knowing your health and well-being, one. Knowing your vulnerabilities, two. Understanding what COVID is. It is a virus. It's a droplet virus. So the concept of wearing some sort of very thin mask under your nose is not going to save you.
Okay.
And you might be asymptomatic and carry to grandma because you haven't seen grandma or granddad in a long time. And you carry around some milk or anything at all. But, you are beyond the 2 meters.
I'm going to be honest here, right, and say I'm even more confused about the bubble, because everything that you just described about other people in my bubble, I could equate that to my children. They ain't got a clue who they're mixing with. They ain't got a clue how many bubbles they're bopping in and out of. They have no clue who they might have it. So I get confused by it. But I'm not diminishing anything that you're saying here. I'm just confessing to say the whole bubble concept leaves me totally confused. I have no idea how the bubble works. But moving on from that, so I know that they're even saying that, and it'd be good for us to expand on that. So they're saying that there's a 50% higher death rate in the Black, Asian, minority, ethnic communities in comparison to white British people. Okay, and I think you've touched on some of the possible factors there. It could be genetic related. I'm a firm believer, and I'm hoping that you will help me to expand my thinking there, that socioeconomics plays a major part in this. What are other factors, so that we can break it down before people start saying coronavirus is racist?
Okay, so I always, say to people there is basically a few, let's just say, qualified evidence that is really worth considering in regards to the BAME communities. And that is our underlying illnesses, some known and some unknown. Example, I was speaking to a lady yesterday and she had no idea she was suffering from high blood pressure. She was going for a TV advert and they had to stop it because her blood pressure was out. It was over 200 over something. So it's about the illnesses that we know of and the illnesses that we don't know that we have. That's the first thing, which put us in a vulnerable state. The second thing is our job type. What type of jobs that we do, and what is our contact and social distancing model in our jobs. For some, they cannot social distance because of their work. For example, nurses, doctors, a lot of healthcare professionals. Yeah. It also is about like bus drivers. We had a few deaths with bus drivers because the number of people that they come in contact with. So we know job type plays a role. We also talk about immunity and your diet. And we know that obesity plays a role as well. And in the BAME community, we do like carbohydrates, including myself. And so therefore, we know that also play a role in regards to your recovery, not getting COVID alone, but your recovery. And that is the most important factor we need to talk about. It's not getting COVID, it's how well we recovered compared to our Caucasian brothers and sisters and everybody else. The other thing is, again, I had stated it before, is the extended family role, and also the different, we are very social group, and that social group still continues to exist despite warnings. So we have to take accountability for our social environment in regards to COVID, where we go, what we do, how do we protect ourselves and our loved ones.
Of course.
The fact about social, looking at social issue, poverty, housing, and all of that, that will impact on us in the BAME community, whether COVID or not. We do know if you live in a very poor housing and it's damp and all of that, you're more than likely to have respiratory illnesses, which will impact further have an impact on your recovery.
Sure.
So there is some aspect of these findings that's being published that will impact whether or not it's COVID.
Sure.
But COVID, I say, it's an important time for everyone to realize that respiratory hygiene and hand hygiene is very important. And for the first time, after many years, I'm sure infection control practitioners around the globe, for the first time, is doing a dance. I said for the first time, infection prevention practitioners around the world are doing a dance, because they've been trying for many years to encourage people to wash their hands. And now people know about washing their hands and keeping a hand sanitizer in their pocket. And to do that, and people are washing their hands more often than ever. But now they're complaining about dermatitis. They say, I've got dermatitis from washing my hands.
There's always something.
It's about us doing a self-care management. And the reason why I wanted to be on your show is because BHC is pushing that self-care management. We need to self-manage our care, what we eat, our exercise regime, our mental health. You realize that you are getting depressed, what you do next. Yeah. You realize your friends and family getting depressed, what you're doing next. You realize that you have a cold. You're not quite sure whether it's an influenza or whether it's COVID. Don't wait until you become very ill to seek help. Yeah.
Sure. I mean,
and it's that wait factor. You must not wait. We are just as important as other members of the society.
Sure.
And we sometimes there's something called racism in medicine. It's not talked about a lot, but it exists. Racism, medicine, racism, whatever you like, because there's a perception of how you present about that illness. You know how you present, and that stereotypical view and there's enough evidence to support that, will impact on your care and well-being.
Of course. So for me, I mean, I guess when I hear that, I agree. There's also a part of me that says, well, if you've got somebody who is in the lower socioeconomic bracket, and we already know the latest research into poverty shows that 50% of Black families live below the poverty line. Then all of a sudden, in terms of eating, well, you don't have many options. You've got to just eat to survive. It's not about eating healthy. Even when you've got a cold, it's like, boy, I've got to go out and work regardless. I don't have the time to just say, okay, you know what, I'm going to give myself to recovery. And for me, those are kind of some of the complex socioeconomic things which impact people. And is it really that straightforward for somebody just to say, okay, I'm going to change my diet, I'm going to get exercise more, when the conditions of life, for some people, it's just about survival, right?
Oh, definitely. And one is not saying that one could do all in an instant. You know, it's not something that you could just do overnight, but small steps go a long way. People like yourself who are doing great work in the community can help affect change in one way or the other. And when we say, we're not talking about going and join a gym or you know, you could do a little up and down your stairs a couple times a day. If you spend a lot of money on takeaways, it's about cutting back some of the takeaways. If you use a high percent of sugar and salt in your diet, it's about looking at replacements, but still keeping within your budget. It really is a mindset here. It really is a mindset. There has been enough research that goes into that. People say, well, you know, I only have 20 pounds to spend a week on my food for myself and my family. But it's about what you spend that 20 pounds on, rather than you know, buying things that are processed foods. And I think we have to educate ourselves about helping our community to stay away from process and the quick fixes that we provide, not only for our children but for ourselves.
So what I'm hearing there is
a bit of yam and cassava. But you know what? It's much healthier that if you go out and purchase, you know, a pizza, you know.
Yeah, I hear you, but I mean, like I said, there's lots of people who are on the poverty line who are living like that, who are not able to afford pizzas. They buy the basics just so that they can cook up something, pasta or something, just to eat, right? And I think that's
and I agree. the people who are above the socioeconomic bracket, yeah, and in the Black community, we have to start, targeting churches, targeting halls, targeting the places that these people go so that we can help them. If we have our brothers and sisters who are going through this sort of a starvation, one of the things is that they're giving money in the church. I'd rather you keep that money so that you eat better, so you could live longer and you could contribute to society. It's about us doing more than what we do.
I agree, and things like food banks and stuff like that, we could be able to assist. But just moving on as well, because just in the interest of time, I know also I think on your website it said something like, was it on your website? I can't remember what I said, but women are 47 times more likely to lose their job during this pandemic. So we're expanding that now. What's that about? Is that like sexism?
Hey, listen.
What's that?
I'm sorry, I'm not being sexist here, but since this whole program of COVID, yeah, women are becoming, although they're working from home, yeah, working from home, just like the opposite sex. But guess what? They're caring for families. Children are rushing in their Zoom calls and their meetings.
Men as well. Hello.
Men as well. But let's be honest here about the proportion. We're talking proportion. Yeah,
I get it.
Balancing wheel here. They take on.
You're fading out. We can't hear you.
They're taking on much more responsibilities compared to others. They are the providers. Some of them are multi-homes, caring for their mothers as well as the children in the household, and still working. And that has an impact. And not only that, some of them have accepted reduced hours. Yeah. So as the companies fold, the people who are on reduced hours are more than likely to lose their jobs. Yeah. There is another element to that, and I can't wait for the real stats to come out, and that is why it is our Caucasian brothers and sisters. Why our Caucasian brothers and sisters are. Can you hear me now? Okay. Why it is our Caucasian brothers and sisters are still in employment, and some of us are not. What is it? Is it that we lack the performance that is required? What is the reason for that? And that is something that has to be explored, and there has to be research in regards to that. But what we do know is that the BAME woman end up taking more roles within the infrastructure since COVID compared to other women, other women of other grouping. So they have more responsibility, taking the children to school, running back, getting on your Zoom meeting. I understand sometimes doing it. I'm not saying that some brothers are not doing it, but we do it more.
I hear you. You're right, because I co-parent with my right, and she does a lot more of it, but I still do it. So yes, I totally get that women, and it's just tongue in cheek. I'm not taking away from the women, and yes, I recognize that the majority of women.
However, there is something we must accept: protectivism. It happens when there's a recession. It happens all the time, where a certain race start to protect their own because of economics. So that plays a role, and so therefore, especially senior jobs and lower paid jobs, it all depends what strata the job. For the cleaning job, we know who we need. For this job, we know who we need. Is there someone you could train up to do your job? And the problem we have, and I'm really hoping that we could do some promotion in regards to that, is that our community is always used to train everybody else, and then they get our job. Or that person passes and become our managers. Something is wrong with that picture.
I get that. I'm quite raw, and I think as time goes on, I get a bit rawer with those things, which is, okay, we know that to be so, right? Let's just accept that that's so. We've been saying the same things for years and generations and generations. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine online today, right? We was talking about the fact that we are having to have the conversation with our young boys about racism in school, in the playground. Oh, no, Johnny doesn't want to play with you because he says you're black. Why do I have to have that conversation? Why does he need to have the conversation with his child about how he needs to conduct himself around the police? The reality is those things exist, they've existed, and they are so. This is where I kind of take a different view around some people, which is, okay, we accept them to be so. What do we do differently to create the outcomes? Yes, they're
Okay.
taking the jobs. Okay, we get it. Yes, there's people who will do protectivism, like you said. I'm going to protect my own. If it all comes to scrap, I'm protecting my own first. That's just normal human kind of survival. So let's not make a bit, for me, it's like, why talk about the obvious? Whereas, what can we do to change that around without expecting it to be done for us? That's where I come from on most of these things. Okay, accept it for what it is. It is what it is. It's not new.
Exactly. But there's another part of this, and this is about ownership. And you're absolutely correct. What we have to do and must do is start educating our children right at home, playing financial games with them, teaching them financial empowerment in the home. That's the first thing. You know, we complain as well. We're good complainants, but however, we have no banks, we have no hospitals, we have no great academic institutions. Even for us as Black women, we mostly buy our wigs from people who are not from the Black community. The food that we put in our mouth is not, we don't buy it, we don't import it from, mostly it's from other communities. Some communities now are fronting our restaurants. So you walk in, it looks like us, but it's not us who owns it. You know, so if you do it A to Z, about what we own in the UK, the BAME community, but talking about Black and Caribbean and Black African community. What do we own? What do we have in the Black and African Caribbean community? What do we own corporate wise to make a difference? So what I say, we've been fighting this war for a long time. Let's get back to basics. What are you teaching your children? What I would like to see, you teach them about health. Health brings wealth. You teach them about financial empowerment. You teach them financial games. You teach them about credit report. Exactly. You don't encourage them to do the usual courses. You ask them to, you explore what it will economically bring them a good livelihood in the future. IT is it. They should be part of the IT world.
Of course, I mean, we're going into the fourth industrial revolution, as we are in the fourth industrial revolution. So right now, I mean, that's a key. We might have some time to talk about it right there. And once again, I hear you. Ultimately, I have you might call it a different or an expansive view on that one, which is, and I keep talking about it. Many of you will hear me talking about it every show. You might see it on some of my posts. As a community, we spend 30 billion annually. 50% of the community is living below the poverty line. So that means that 30 billion is coming from the other 50% of the community in some shape or form. We know that money stays within our community less than a day. Schools, hospitals, all those type of things, when I look at the numbers, suggest that actually we could do these things. Now, this is not a pulling us down or whatever. It is what it is, and I'm a firm believer we've got to look at what is in order to change the things. So I hear you in regards to the jobs. I hear you in regards to the impact on our community in terms of health. I hear you in terms of the number of women who potentially are going to be made or lose their jobs from our communities, which once again, from a complex adaptive system thinking, is going to have more ripple effects across it. The question is, how do we do it? We can make change.
However, there is one thing to that. The women and the men who have been made redundant. It's a great time for the cottage industry. We should start buying from them, buying their clothing. If you're a great seamstress, a great barber, we have to actually start supporting small businesses, small Black businesses. We have to start buying from them. We have to show them how to use social media to promote their business. I know their business, you might pay £1 more in their business because guess what? They don't have the money to import cheaply. they have to buy it at a higher cost. So we have to support them. We also have to give business training according to the background of that person. We have to support small businesses. And I mean from things like plumbing, electrical, painting, all of that. You know, we have to start doing that.
I mean, the great thing is there's a number of various, and I know you're members of it, so I'm reminding some of the listeners out there, a number of various Facebook groups out there. There'll be a number of apps that'll be coming out. Watch this space as well. There's going to be some other stuff that circulates, bringing out to actually support all of those things. And I think all of those things are good. And let's not forget that even though we say these things, there's lots of people who are doing great stuff, who are building up. I know that there was a launch this week of a Black crowdfunding platform, which is intended to... We had Professor Richard Orefo from the Cowrie Scholarship on here last week talking about the goal to actually send 100 Black British students from, maybe poor backgrounds into university on full scholarships. We had Eric Collins on here before a few weeks ago talking about how they're looking to invest over 100 million in Black businesses who are innovative and taking advantage of technology. So let's just, for all the listeners out there, against all this backdrop of the conversation that we're having right here, is there's a lot of things that are happening, and I'm sure that many of those people watching right now, they're doing their little bits, and I guess it's how do we join all of those things together?
Yeah.
Before you go there, just want to quickly just do a quick announcement as well. So just to say, and here's a key thing as well. So some of you would have.
Yeah.
Their parents and everything else. So things can be done.
Well done. Well done. I will contribute to that. Well done. Well done. Before, can I just say something?
Sure.
We need to develop learning hubs for our younger generation.
Of course.
We need to create learning hubs.
So here's the challenge that I see with a lot of the things.
We have a learning hub for IT. We have a learning hub for medicine. We need to create a learning hub for catering. We need to create learning hubs right across the society so that young people can come in and be mentored by people like yourself and myself and others who can actually impact change.
Sure. So what I would then put out is a appeal to anybody in the community. If you have learning hubs, because I'm sure that they exist. I think one of the challenges that we're seeing, but I'm hoping that technology and platforms like this will help us to join it up, is people actually doing great stuff. It's just that they are doing it in isolation. So if you do have a learning hub, whatever type form, please do feel free to reach out to me. So reach out to me on this platform, any of my social medias, DM me. Let's see if we can start connecting the dots, make it a bit more powerful, so it can have more impact, and so we can speed up what we're doing here. And also to take the pressure of those who are working in isolation. Because once they start working with other people, they start recognizing, hey, we can support each other. What I haven't got, you've got, and then we tie those dots together. So just one of the last questions that I really just wanted to wrap up on. We'll try and keep it short and sweet, and then we'll try and finish on a kind of positive note where we can find one. Something that I found out about this week as well is Black women are 5 times more likely to die during childbirth. Now, what is that about again? Is that something to do with genetics? Is the woman's uterus different because she's Black? Is it that they turn up late? What is it? I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not good at maths. What's that?
There's many factors for this. This will be a whole show by itself.
Okay, how about
antenatal care? Yeah, antenatal care, pre-conception, identifying, your own vulnerabilities and comorbidities. And I know that you have a professor who's going to come on and going to talk about that. Professor Rotimi is very good at pushing the forefront with this in regards to saving lives of the BAME woman, the Black woman. Size of baby due to diabetes, multiple births. There are so many other factors. And also, we have to do some work with midwives in recognizing pain control.
Got it.
And when you know, at what point are we going to start looking at women post-delivery in regards to, you know, fibroids, bleeding, postpartum hemorrhage? There's a whole lot of clinical factors, and it hasn't changed. But what I would like to sort of implore and beg is that my Black sisters out there is to make sure you get antenatal care. Make sure that you understand whether you're sickle cell, you have lupus. Make sure you check your health before becoming pregnant. And if you are pregnant and you are told to follow certain guidelines, please do. Make sure when you feel unwell, you're seeing little lights or having headaches, please, when your feet swollen and you feel unwell, don't sit at home. Get help, and demand help as well. The other thing is that sometimes you present yourself and they say, oh, it's not a problem. You go home, it's okay. No, demand to be seen. And also ask for a specialist. That's your right. Say, what is your job? What is your role? I like to see someone more senior because I don't feel well. And that's the one thing we don't do. We don't question the person who is actually giving us care and treatment.
Awesome. I mean, thank you very much for that. I didn't realize the severity of this issue. Of course, I had the numbers, but when you start breaking that down and you start making it more personable, yeah, it seems like a big problem. So definitely we'll have Professor Rotimi on here to talk about that a bit more, because if there's anything that he could say or suggest that can help anybody out there to save just one life, then to me that's just, you know, that's powerful in itself. We're wrapping up right now, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to be with us. I have a question for you, which is right now we are experiencing major change, right, on so many levels globally, economically, politically, in terms of how we live, we work, we play as a result of this whole pandemic situation that we find ourselves in. And all of this is against the backdrop of the fourth industrial revolution. Now, for those of you out there who might be, you are going to hear me talking about this a lot. It's important that we understand what the fourth industrial revolution is. So,
yeah.
in ways that it wasn't before. So my question on the back end of that, Michaelene, is this: how do you see technology and also agile ways of working, so agile ways and lean ways of working, how do you see that helping the BAME Health Collaborative to achieve its outcomes?
We are in a time when technology is king. We are in a time where data is king. We are in a time where coding, I want people to actually understand. We have to start getting our communities to understand how to code, to understand the power of data analytics. And data is really what we need to prove that we are at disadvantage and the disparities in health. We need more researchers from the BAME community. We need to embrace, I'm asking technologists out there to develop platforms that we can actually use to hold data about our well-being. Example, in the COVID deaths, how many Nigerians died from COVID? How many Trinidadians died from COVID? Even if you do a FOI in regards to that, the freedom of information, you can't specifically get that. You just get Afro-Caribbean or very general. We need to start doing we need to start having some sort of interoperability in regards to other platforms. We need to actually have our own scientists who will be able to use technology to our advancement. We cannot run away from technology. Okay. If we don't know it, we need to get educated, or else you're going to be left behind. Economically, power of money is technology. What you eat is now being created by the best technological platform. What you see on television, it is ruled by technology. Even reading newspaper, now you have so much, it's on your phone, it's technology. Your health and well-being is held on from Fitbit to your phone. That is the future. The future is very paperless. The future is now, and the future is paperless. And you have to get on board. You don't have a choice, or you'll be left behind.
But that's the bottom line, really, isn't it? I mean, over the last 10, 15 years, I've been working with organizations like yourselves, which is helping them to prepare themselves for the fourth industrial revolution, helping them to be able to be ready for digital transformation. And for me, it's just seeing how the COVID situation, which was unpredictable, has just brought all of those 10, 15 years worth of stuff together. And you're just like, aha, now I see how it becomes useful. And that's the reality of the world that we live in. Everything is connected. And once again, it's same thing that you're talking about there. It's all about data. It's about getting feedback. It's about using the right metrics to make the best decision, not just going on gut or knee-jerk responses, no more using data. That's why everything is very much data-driven. But also, in addition to that, we need academic people, but people who can take advantage of the technology. There's multi-millionaires, there are people building apps in their bedrooms, right? The people that we work with in Ghana, they're building whole programs who haven't got computers. They're building whole programs on the back of their phone, just computing. So technology is there, the opportunities are there, and for me, this is going to be a major game changer, not just economically, representative-wise, in terms of providing jobs, housing, all of these stuff. Because, like you said, technology underlies everything: house building, food growing, biotechnology, education, you name it. It's all.
It is even revolutionizing markets. You know, import and export. It is revolutionizing the way we interact. I've opened a small office in Rwanda that I didn't tell you because it's leading by other partners. And that I can afford to do that because of technology, the virtual environment. Post-COVID, we will still be in a virtual environment. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? How are you going to transform your business to still be successful in a post-COVID environment? And I tell you the first thing to do, get a technology expert, someone who's agile. You need the agile experts to actually help you to upscale your business in this world. If you don't know how to do that, you will be operating a very ancient system in a very modern world, and it will be doomed to failure. That your profit margin would be very small. You would not be able to afford the things that you really like. Even cars. Now, the technology in cars, you need training manuals to really get one of these modern cars. You really do need to understand that data is king. Data is king.
It is indeed. And like you said around cars, it's like what they say about Tesla. Tesla is more of a computer than it is a car. It's actually a computer. That's what it is. It's a computer on wheels. That's how they talk about it. Right, we're just coming to the end of the show right now. Really appreciate what you've shared. I believe that it would have impacted some of the listeners and given them some new things to think about, and also some things that they can take away that they can utilize in their own health. in wrapping up, what one last thought would you like to leave the audience with?
Okay, BAME Health Collaborative launches on the 27th, which is Friday at 6:30. It's on Eventbrite. We also will be having an auction, and we also will be having you as a speaker for whatever time. And we also will be having a quiz. It is a great time to meet some of our ambassadors, our special advisors, trustees, and supporters across the board. But my last important message is two things, really. We are all important, and please do not let your status quo stop you. Yeah, stop you from helping your brother man. Please don't let your accolades and your position, your job position, stop you from helping your brother man. We all need to help each other during this time. Look at your neighbors, look at your friends and family, see who's struggling and how you can help. Mental health and well-being is important. That's the first thing. The second thing is get educated. It's not too late. COVID is a great time to retrain. There are lots of free programs. There's a lot of free training. If you have a business, get agile. And I'm sure Ade will be able to help you in that. Get agile. I'm serious. You need to understand Scrum, agility. You need to understand that. I didn't understand it. And when I did, I wish I'm kicking myself now. So I really want you to do that. And let's work together for the betterment of the BAME community, especially the Black community. Let's work together. We are too divided. Together we stand. Divided we definitely fall. And to families, you need to stand with your family. Women who are married, men who are married, take care of your children. Teach them, empower them, and let them be able to walk in any environment knowing that they're unapologetically Black and beautiful.
Awesome. A very powerful statement there. And thank you very much for that. So once again, I really appreciate you taking time out. Looking forward to joining you tomorrow for the launch of the BAME Health Collaborative. So for everybody watching right now, you can see where the website is. So just go down there, go over to the website, make sure you come along. And as you heard there, these are just platforms. Okay, it's not about ownership. It's not about anybody. These are just platforms which are intended to enable us to come together and collectively bring our skill sets and our ideas to platforms with other people to look at how we can actually start utilizing our intellect, our experience, our finances, our time to build our communities. We built the pyramids. We built so many other things in the past. Ain't nothing stopping us. It all starts here. Do you know what I mean? We have everything that we need. So that's why you hear me sometimes say, yeah, I get all the obstacles out there, but they're out there. And as far as I'm aware, nobody ain't going to move them for me. So
yes,
what do? That the bottom line is we have the ability to move these things. And going back to Michaelene's point, I think, we need to move beyond the narratives that we're hearing out there. Just do for self, right? And let's remember, doing for self doesn't mean excluding anybody. Doesn't mean excluding anybody, but it means we're just looking to self for the solutions that we hold. That's my firm belief. So once again, sister, really appreciate it. Look forward to joining you tomorrow for the launch. For all the audience out there, if you can make the launch, please do as well. Spread the word, and thank you for joining us. And we will see you again next week. So until then, take care.
Stay COVID safe, people, please.
Definitely so. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.